Good morning, everyone. The time is 9 o'clock. I call to order the June 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Contractor State Licensing Board. My name is David L. Torre, CSLB's board chair. Board members, we will be using cameras during the meeting. To mitigate any potential bandwidth issues, we ask that you turn off your video camera when you are not speaking. When you would like to comment during the meeting, please turn on your camera or select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. I will call on board members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute and turn off your camera. Shelley Jones is our host and moderator today. Also joining us is Registrar David Fote, Chief Deputy Registrar Tanya Corcoran, CSLB staff, and our board legal counsel, Jason Hurtado. Police, please note for board records that Nancy Springer has an approved absence. Please confirm board member attendance and roll call.
David Delatorre.
Here.
Kevin Albanese.
Here.
Frank Altamira.
Here.
Augie Beltran.
Here.
Ronnie Cobos.
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Don Giartano.
Here.
Susan Granzilla.
Here.
Diana Love.
Here. Did you
Michael
hear
Mark?
me?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Mark.
Here.
Jimmy Wayne.
Here.
Johnny Simpson.
Here.
Nancy has an excused absence, and Mary Tykert. Is Mary here?
Mary is currently not on the meeting.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Thank you, please. At this time, I ask that you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to agenda item B, which is for public comment and to request agenda items for future meetings. The board values public input as part of our consumer protection mission. To allow us enough time to conduct our full schedule of business today, I'm limiting public comments to 3 minutes apiece. If your comments don't involve an item on today's agenda, this would be the time where you can make them. If you have comments on one of our agenda items, we encourage you to wait until we get to that item. We will give you an opportunity to make your comments at that time. We also ask that your public comment relate to the agenda item currently before the board. There are a few other rules that apply. First, California law prohibits board members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment, and board members are not allowed to act on any item not on today's agenda. Second, if you want the board to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing that issue on the agenda of a future meeting. And finally, if you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. That's because board members may be the judges and by law are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. Members of the public, if you are with us on WebEx and would like to make a comment, use the chat feature to send the host a note that you would like to offer public comment. If you are joining us on the phone and would like to make a public comment, press *9. We will take any WebEx comments first, followed by telephone comments. We will use this time the same system throughout the meeting for public comment during each agenda item. You will find instructions on how you can make public comments on the agenda for this meeting posted on the CSLB website. Board members, please turn on your camera and raise your hand if you have an agenda item you would like placed on future meeting agenda. Okay, seeing none. Shelley, please check to see if there are any members of the public who wish to address the board or offer a possible agenda item for future meeting.
Thank you. I see Davy Rodriguez would like to make a comment. Davy, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes. And if I may, before you begin, just remind you to please lower your hand.
Lower my hand.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, you raised it. There should be a small
I did.
icon of a hand at the bottom of the
I-
participant list.
When I press on it, okay.
There you go.
All right,
Now
good.
it's down.
Okay, my name is Davy Rodriguez, and I've been before the board some time back. I would like to address something today that I made a complaint on the public, a public complaint about unlicensed contractors. And usually I get good service from the board on things like this, but because this time it's a government entity that is hiring unlicensed contractors, I'm not getting anywhere. In fact, they're now the board stopped calling me back. And it kind of makes me angry that they would treat us this way. I mean, these contracts are in tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The city of Sacramento is doling them out to people who are not licensed, and they are required. I think I pretty much verified that. At this point, though, after the complaint was issued, the board has not returned my calls from that point, and I don't see anything happening on this. I would like to know, I'd like the board to look into this and find out if there's just some sort of favoritism because, it is, like I say, a government entity, and I think that they should not get away with this. Not that the government is the one that gets cited, but the contractors themselves are probably politically connected. I don't know. It's the only thing I can guess at this point. But I will not let this just go away. Didn't let it last time, and I did have to work at it, but I got some satisfaction. Go that route again. Should not be allowed to stand because the board does prosecute people of lesser standing all the time for doing the same thing for a lot lesser sums of money. And this, it just reeks of corruption. That is all I have to say on this matter for the moment.
Well, Speaker, thank you for your comments. The board cannot discuss the details of an application or pending licensing or enforcement matter. You may provide your contact information to the moderator, and CSLB staff will reach out to discuss your specific application, complaint, enforcement matter. Again, thank you for your comments.
And not seeing any further requests at this time.
Okay, great. Next is agenda item C, presentation of certificates of recognition. Today we are recognizing two board members, Nancy Springer and Kevin Albany. Let me start by thanking Nancy for her service. In 2013, Nancy was appointed to local building contractor position of the board. Prior to Nancy serving on the board, she was a friend to the board. In fact, when Nancy served at the Butte County building official, she provided office space for one CSLB Swift investigator so that they could work directly with building department staff and with the community. As a CSLB board member, she continued to be a conduit between building officials and CLB staff. Nancy reported on CSLB activities at numerous building officials' meetings and served as a resource to staff on code compliance and permit issues. She advocated for and starred in the CSLB developed building permit compliance course, which we use today as an educational tool for contractors. I will now read the plaque from the board. To Nancy Springer, CSLB Board Member 2013 to 2021. CSLB Enforcement Committee Chair, 2018 to 2019. In recognition of your outstanding contributions to the Contractor State Licensing Board, California consumers, and to the construction industry, thank you for a job well done. Next, I would like to thank and recognize Kevin Albanese for his service on the board. Kevin was appointed in 2013 to the position of General Building Contractor. Throughout his tenure, Kevin has not shied away from addressing tough issues. Kevin was a strong resource on the balcony bill that resulted from the tragic Berkeley balcony collapse. Kevin's input ensured that it provided enhanced consumer protection without putting unnecessary burdens on the industry. Also, while serving on the Workers' Compensation Advisory Committee, Kevin was instrumental in obtaining industry support and finding a balanced approach in crafting a legislative proposal to achieve great workers' compensation compliance. Today, legislation is pending to mandate workers' compensation. Lastly, I'd like to thank Kevin for stepping in at our last sunset review hearing. Kevin testified before the legislature on CSLB's behalf, providing key testimony. Needless to say, the hearing went very well. I will now read the plaque from the board. To Kevin Albanese, CSLB Board Member 2013 to 2021. CSLB Board Chair 2017 to 2018. In recognition of your outstanding contributions to the Contractor State Licensing Board, California consumers, and to the construction industry, thank you for a job well done. At this time, I'll ask any board members if they'd like to comment.
David, this is Augie.
The board recognizes Augie Beltran.
I want to thank both Nancy and Kevin for their time on the board and the service that they've given. Both of them have been great resources to us, and their wisdom is valued in every aspect and every decision that we've made. And thank you both very much. You will be missed.
Well said. Is there any other board comment?
This
Yes.
is Mary Tykert.
Go ahead, Mary.
The board recognizes Mary.
Okay, thank you.
Mary?
There we go. Yes. I'd like to echo Augie's commentary on the value of both of these board members, and particularly highlight what a great representative and liaison to the contracting community Kevin's been through his entire time on the board. So in addition to good service on the CSLB, he's also been a great industry association representative and helped highlight the role and the resource that CSLB can be for contractors within the contracting community. So they'll both be missed.
Susan, you wanted to comment?
Yes, this is Susan Granzella. I wanted to comment and say thank you to both of them. With Nancy, having been new on the, when I was new on the board and I did not have a contracting background, Nancy was always available to answer questions and kind of fill me in on what was going on the board. Kevin too, I served on a couple of committees with Kevin. I think what I learned that it's okay to move things along quickly on the board when you see that there might be, you know, it was his style that really helped in many of our discussions where we came to a conclusion and a good one in a faster pace, you know. So, but he was always very helpful, and we thought alike on many of the committee, you know, to change, to look for a new registrar and those kinds of things. So it was extremely helpful to be working with Kevin to see how things worked on the board. Thank you to both of them, and they will be missed.
Are there any other board comments? Miguel.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to meet Nancy given our COVID situation. But I appreciate all her hard work. I do want to share the fact that Kevin was gracious enough to meet with me as I became a board member and introduced himself to me, and you know, gave me some good advice and gave me the opportunity to feel comfortable serving on the board. So for that, I'm truly grateful for those that have reached out and spoken to me. Thank you.
Any other board comment? Registrar, I see you visually. Would you like to comment?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Chair Delatorre. I too would like to thank both Nancy and Kevin. Nancy was instrumental in opening the doors for better working relationships with building officials throughout the state. We had the opportunity to work together at many conferences. You know, she was very valuable to the board. You know, specifically though for Kevin, just want to acknowledge Kevin's support for board operations. He provided us numerous leads relating to unlicensed practice and egregious conduct that really helped to protect consumers. He was always willing to help with public outreach. And for us, most importantly, for me and for our senior staff here, he's always willing to take a phone call when you have a difficult situation. You call Kevin up. If you need him to come to a senior staff meeting, Kevin would hop on the train and he would attend that senior staff meeting. And just in closing, he did a lot over the last 8 years to help staff review licensing operations. And because of his efforts, we are more business friendly and we have enhanced consumer protection with our licensing division today. So thank you very much, Kevin, for all that you did.
Okay, any other board comment? Seeing none, I see a visual of Kevin. I guess he would like to make some comments.
Now, I would just, I wish Nancy was here. She has been a fantastic addition to the board over the last 8 years, and her advocacy with the building officials up and down the state, and her credibility, her knowledge, and bringing that to the board has been instrumental. And it just shows the importance of having that building official person. I hope whoever fills her shoes is equally engaged and in touch with the rest of the building official community. I'm overwhelmed, and I have truly enjoyed the last 8 years on the board. These have been some of the most transformational years of my life. And as much as I started in 13, my father passed in 14, and I took over the business and then got out of the business in 2020. But the one of the constants was being a part of this board. The board members that came before, Joan Hancock, Bob Lamb, Ed Lang, David Diaz, Paul Schaffino, were all fantastic mentors. The current board, you guys are in just fantastic hands. I would talk about all of you, but we only have a few minutes here. To the staff, I want to make a shout out to Jesse Flores, Missy Vickery, and Becky Like, who can't be with us today. Their support, I know some of them are gone now, but their support through the years, the enforcement committee has just been fantastic. Tanya Corcoran, I don't know what I could say about you, but you hit all the pitches, and you do it behind the scenes, and nobody knows everything that you do. I would hate to have to give you an annual review because I don't know everything that you do, but you make it seamless. And to the registrar, Dave Fote, I knew you as chief of enforcement when you took over the role as registrar. I had some questions, and you've answered every question beyond reproach, and couldn't be more proud to be part of this board. The last person that I want to give a shout out to is Uncle Jeff Miller. And I guess I know it's not necessarily my parting comments of the day, I'm sure, but in this forum, I had the opportunity to go on a sting with Jeff Miller. And while we were in the sting house, I affectionately referred to him as Uncle Jeff because I would come out when the unlicensed guys were there and, hey, Uncle Jeff. And anyway, it was just kind of part of the ruse. But by being out with Jeff Miller and the sting group, we were able to identify a hole in our legislation, a hole in our consumer protection, and our folks were not able to give notices to appear for workers' compensation violations. And it was Jeff Miller's impetus. We got that resolved. So to the board, remember the people on the ground. They're out there dealing with the consumer. They understand the issues. They're feeling those issues. We're here for consumer protection. Thank you all very, very, very much for all your support and just the opportunity to work with you all. Thank you. And I'm always here as a resource if I could ever help any one of you.
Great. So before I turn it, ask Shelley if there's any public comment, just want to say, unfortunately, Nancy's not here, was not here to attend today's meeting. I'm sure she's here vicariously, but I want to thank both of you for your commitment to the board and ensuring consumer protection. So with that, Shelley, is there any public comment?
Just as a reminder, if anybody would like to make a public comment, please click on your Q&A icon on your screen and submit a request, or you may also use the chat feature. We have a request from Richard Marcus. Richard, your line is open and you will have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members and staff, Richard Marcuson. And I would just like to echo the comments about your departing board members. I can't believe that time has gone by so quickly. They've both been excellent representatives of the public, but always open to listen to the contractor community. And my clients have certainly appreciated that. So thanks to them, best wishes, and good luck to you all for a great meeting today. Thank you.
And thank you. You've lowered your hand. Let's see. And I apologize. Did Member Galarza get a chance to comment?
I don't believe so.
He submitted a request through the chat. He did. Okay.
He did. Yeah. Is his hand
Okay.
still?
No, I didn't catch
right.
that in the chat earlier. It looks like that's all we have for this item.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Shelley, and thank you for that comment. Next, we move on to agenda item D, the review and possible approval of March 25th, 2021 board meeting minutes, which begin on page 11.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any board member comments? Seeing none. Shelley, any public comment? Shelley?
My apologies. It would help if I unmuted myself. Not seeing any at this time for this item.
Great. Okay. So, Felice, roll call, please.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Kevin Albanese,
Aye.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Don Giordano,
Aye.
Susan Granzilla,
Aye.
Diana Love,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jimmy Wayne,
Aye.
Johnny Simpson,
Aye.
Mary Tykert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Felice. Next is the Registrar's report, which includes an update on the tentative board meeting schedule, update on the B2 residential remodeling classification, and the status update on the contract with the consultant to study which CSLB license classification should install battery energy storage systems. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Delatorre. Taking a little bit out of order, I'll end with the upcoming board meeting schedule. I'd like to begin by thanking the fine work performed by the CSLB's Testing and Examination Unit led by Carol Gagnon. I believe she's with us today. They've really prioritized the development of the B2 residential remodeling classification. What they've done is they've created an item bank by surveying industry, conducting workshops, performing item writing, and they performed all this in record time, got it completed within 7 months. And so I certainly appreciate their efforts. Now what we're doing is it's more of a consolidated approach by all of our board divisions, being public affairs, licensing, enforcement, and information technology, to coordinate the publicizing of this new classification. We've issued industry bulletins, conducted monthly applicant workshops, and through proactive enforcement, by performing sweeps and stings, we're educating those that we're identifying as being unlicensed and how they can qualify for this new license. We think it'll have a significant impact on combating the underground economy. Page 44 of your packets includes an industry bulletin that was released April 29th. And we've also developed a video that is being posted regularly on social media. Staff continue to look for opportunities to work with licensing schools and industry partners to encourage qualified persons to make application for this new classification. On the 21st of this month, we'll begin accepting applications for the B2 residential remodeling contractors. So we're real excited about that. The trade exam testing is scheduled to commence in August. And very optimistic that we can get the word out how this classification will help those that have the residential remodeling experience and that they've been performing multiple trades, but they lack the rough framing or rough carpentry experience and may have precluded them from obtaining a license in the past. There's a lot of individuals that didn't qualify over the prior years that now would qualify, and we hope that we get the information out to them, they'll make application and obtain this license. Now, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin in our Public Affairs Office to show the B2 video. So, Kevin?
I have some exciting news to share with you regarding a new contractor license classification called the B2 Residential Remodeling Contractor. This classification was created to meet California's evolving consumer construction needs and to address the need for licensure in the remodeling industry. Consumers routinely seek contractors to remodel and update their homes without wanting structural changes to them. To get a general building license in California, applicants must have 4 years of experience in framing and carpentry. This requirement means that many applicants with residential remodeling experience don't have the opportunity to get a license. The new residential remodeling contractor classification was created to provide a pathway to licensure for qualified candidates with remodeling or handyman experience and to meet consumer demand. The new B2 license can accept kitchen and bathroom remodeling projects that are currently in high demand. Cabinet replacement, new paint and flooring, even replacement of electrical or plumbing fixtures can be performed with this license. However, there are some limitations. The residential remodeling contractor is not authorized to make structural changes to load-bearing portions of structures, and they cannot perform electrical, mechanical, or plumbing work behind the wall. We hope this new classification can help you become successful with your residential remodeling construction business. If you're currently working as a handy person, we encourage you to get a contractor's license so you can take on larger remodeling projects. If you'd like more information on the licensing process, please join us at our monthly Get Licensed to Build workshop. The workshop takes place every first Friday of the month from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. To register, just go to cslb.ca.gov. You can register up to a week before the workshop by using the banner at the top of the homepage. To learn more about the B2 residential remodeling classification, go to cslb.ca.gov.
Thank you. Before we discuss the battery energy storage system consultant contract, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, or if there's any comments.
I would just say, Dave, well done to staff and everybody for getting this over the finish line. It's been a long time coming. Great job.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to...
I have one question. This is Susan. I was just finishing looking at where it says an industry bulletin announced it. Can you elaborate on how we got the word out? You said it was on social media. It was used in sting operations, to let them know that it was possible. But how else are we getting this word out?
Well, we are sending it out through our listserv for those that have expressed interest in receiving publications. I know we're doing it that way. I know that it's something that as I mentioned, our proactive enforcement team is distributing when they're out engaging unlicensed people in the field. But I'm going to ask Tanya Corcoran if she might want to comment on that. She took more of the lead role in distributing it. So Tanya, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, good morning. Yes, we are also looking at leveraging all of our current licensee database. We're working on that, and we would expect in the next 4 to 6 weeks to have another notice go out to all those licensees to provide this information. So we are looking at getting that out. And also we can look at doing like a media inquiry to see if anybody will pick it up in the media. So Joy Amard is our new public affairs manager. She just started in the middle of May. And so those are a few items that we are looking at promoting.
Thank you.
Yeah, David, quick question. You mentioned handyman. What's the threshold that would trigger this the license?
Well, the threshold is we have a lot of people doing the handy person type work, and they can only take jobs where the material and labor is valued at less than $500. And so those are very small projects. So you have a lot of these handyman, handy person type individuals that are out performing work that's over $500 unlicensed. So this would provide a pathway to licensure for some of them if they can demonstrate that they have the multi-trade experience in the residential remodeling industry. Many of them do. They're coming in, they're doing multiple trade work, fixing up homes to sell for other reasons. And so we can consider that experience and when the application is submitted to us and determine if they have the 4 years. And if so, they can sit for the exam and hopefully obtain a contractor's license.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to our battery energy storage system consultant contract. I know we have some new board members, and because of that, I'm just going to very quickly run through what the contract provides for. And a little background, December 2020, CSLB entered into a contract with UC Berkeley to consider the battery energy storage system risk, hazard, size, and complexity. They need to determine if there is an existing or prospective harm to public safety, and if so, what is the likelihood of the existing or prospective harm occurring, and or will that harm be fixed by enacting a regulation? So really taking a hard look here at the appropriate classification to install these battery energy storage systems are often used in conjunction with the solar system. And whether our existing solar contractor classification should be authorized in regulation to install an energy storage system, and if so, to what extent and in what way. They're also looking at the applicability of state and national standards and codes to these installations, and what, if any, economic impact will occur if there's a restriction on the CSLB solar contractor regulation. An analysis of applicable knowledge, skills, and training as relates to installation of BESS or battery energy storage systems is also a component of it. So they're going to be taking a look at which of these trades that are currently doing it have established training programs. Now, the consultant contract provided for completion by the end of June. We had thought at one time that it might be completed prior to this meeting. It did not happen. They need a little more time. They have assured me, though, that it will be completed by June 30th. So we're excited about that. It'll be up to the next chair to determine if there should be a standalone meeting to discuss their study. As some of you may recall, there's been a lot of interest in this in the past. We've had more than 100 people show up for board meetings to want to weigh in and share their thoughts regarding this. So we did not get it done today. The next board meeting is scheduled for September 21st and 22nd. That board meeting will likely be in Orange County. It'll commence, the idea is that it would commence on the afternoon of the 21st with a joint meeting that would include the Nevada board. So we'd have our joint Nevada's California board meeting the afternoon of the 21st. On the 22nd will be strategic planning. So the next chair will have to determine, do they want to hold the study for discussion until September, or would a standalone meeting, perhaps early July, be most appropriate, for the public to weigh in? I will tell you that once we have the report, we're going to publicize it at least 10 days before any scheduled meeting. And with that, are there any questions regarding the study or the September board meeting? If not, that would conclude my report. Thank you.
Okay, Registrar, thank you for that report. Now we move to the strategic planning. The strategic planning process overview is on page 51. As we have in the past, we will be utilizing the Department of Consumer Affairs Solid Training and Planning Solutions Office to provide planning services to develop the board's 2022 to 2025 strategic plan. Shelley Jones, our moderator for today's board meeting, is one of Solid managers and has agreed to be our strategic planning facilitator. Shelley is working closely with Dave and Tanya on the preliminary aspects of gathering information and developing the plan schedule. Over the next few months, Shelley will be conducting an environmental scan to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, surveying staff, industry members, interested parties, and licensees. Specific to board members, Shelley will be conducting one-on-one interviews. At the September 2021 board meeting, board members and senior staff will develop strategic objectives. The strategic planning session will be approximately 6 hours and will be the primary focus of day one of our 2-day board meeting. At the December 2021 board meeting, the strategic plan will be presented for board review and adoption. Before I turn it over to Shelley to discuss the process in more detail, I wanted to notify my fellow board members that I have appointed a 2-person advisory committee to review licensing reciprocity. Miguel Galarza and myself will discuss their findings and recommendations as part of CSLB's strategic planning discussion in September. At this time, I will turn it over to Shelley Jones. Shelley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, members. So you're aware, the next step in our strategic planning process from where we are now is that we will be conducting a scan and analysis of the environment in which your organization operates. And this is an integral part of the strategic planning process. The analysis will provide a better understanding of stakeholder, board member, and board staff thoughts about the board's performance within its identified goal areas, and allows us to take a look at the factors that can impact an organization's success. A summary of the results will be compiled into an environmental scan report, which will outline areas where stakeholders, board members, and board staff agree and disagree, while providing additional insight to assist the board in developing its goals and objectives for the upcoming strategic plan. I will be soon reaching out to each of you board members directly via email to schedule one-on-one interviews to occur in June, and these meetings will take approximately 45 minutes, give or take. Confidentiality is a critical component of the strategic planning process. Board members and stakeholder input will be compiled into the environmental scan report. However, names will not be disclosed. It is typical for a strategic plan to be 3 to 5 years long. CSLB's last strategic plan was 3 years and is currently being proposed for another 3 years again this cycle. Board members will discuss and determine the final length of the time based for this new plan, and that will be based upon objectives developed at your September board meeting. And as you can see displayed on the screen is the typical strategic planning process. So we do have our environmental scan step. After that will be the board meeting strategic planning session. Following that, we will create the finalized strategic plan That will be reviewed and then presented at a board meeting for approval. And then following that, we can go into action planning if your leadership so desires. And with that, I'll turn the floor back over to Registrar Fote.
Registrar, I believe the floor is yours.
Actually, I think we're going to turn this over to Tanya and Stacy Paul.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Dave and I have been working with Shelley doing all the preliminary steps. So we are looking forward to engage in the strategic planning process with the board members in September. Great, so we can move on to the budget update.
Thank you, Tanya, and good morning, everybody. On page 59 begins the budget update. The first chart shows your fiscal year's budget and expenses through March. No big changes from last time as we continue to meet our goal of reducing expenses to have enough cash flow to continue operations until a fee increase is secured. To date, we've expended 69% of our budget, keeping us on track to spend about the same as last year at $66 million. The chart directly below shows our revenue through March. Overall, we're up from last year at 14.8%. This is mostly due to a steady increase in renewals, as well as licensees paying delinquent fees. If you flip the page, this is our fund condition, which projects out to budget year 21-22. If you look at the current year, which is in the middle column, our projected revenue for this year is $72 million, and directly below that is our projected expenses at $71 million. Keep in mind, this includes the $7.1 million in reduction expenses that you all approved. We are on track to end this fiscal year with $1.7 million in savings. And the last column reflects our projection for our budget year with $5 million in expense cost savings as we did this year. It is critical that we continue to save in an effort to maintain solvency until a new fee increase occurs. Without it, the fund would become deficient by next year. On the next page, this is our chart showing the board approved $7.1 million in expenses for this year. As you can see in the column on the right in the blue, this is the savings through March, and you can see that we've already met the goal and exceeded at $7.5 million. Now on to the next page is the $5 million that I just briefly talked about. This is up for board approval to continue with a similar reduction that we did for this year. We're proposing $5 million in cost saving measures, which includes holding 35 vacancies to maintain about $3.5 million in savings, and then another $1.5 million is attained through cutting costs with licensing and enforcement division. Which is in the same areas that we cut costs this year. Without these savings, the fund would be deficient before year end unless a fee increase is secured. At the conclusion of my update, this will be called for your vote by the board chair. Lastly, let me quickly touch on the statistic summary on the next 3 pages. It's very similar to what we discussed at the last board meeting. As we're seeing a decline still in new applications and the issuance of new licenses due to the delay in the backlog of the exams. But we are seeing a steady increase in renewals at 4% over 2 years. This concludes my budget update. Any questions?
Okay, seeing none. Thank you for that report, Stacy. So I will ask for a motion. There's a staff recommendation on the bottom of page 58 that the board approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 expenditure reduction plan outlining $5 million in savings. This recommendation projects that the fund would be solvent at the end of fiscal year 2021-2022 with $1.2 million in reserve. Do I have a motion?
Motion to follow staff recommendation, Beltran.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Did you get that, Felice? Okay, is there any board comment? Seeing none?
Dave, this is Kevin Albanese. I'm going to support the motion. I just encourage the board as it continues to go forward to look for ways to find revenue for these positions. I know enforcement is structurally always challenged to have people and resources for our consumers, cutting test locations and whatnot. This is all what we need to do, but I would always encourage the board to remember these cuts and the importance that they serve for both the contracting community and the consumer.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other board comments? Okay, seeing none. Shelley, is there any public comment?
Not seeing any in the chat, not seeing any in the Q&A, and not seeing any hand raises.
Outstanding. Shelley, Felice, roll call, please.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Kevin Albanese,
Aye.
Franco Tamara,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Don Giordano,
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Diana Love,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Wayne,
Aye.
Johnny Simpson,
Aye.
Mary Tykert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Felice. Next, please turn to page 75 of your board packet for the information technology update. Jason Perez, please update the board.
Thank you, Board Chair, and good morning, everybody. On page 75 begins the information technology update. First, I'd like to highlight CSLB is processing almost 40% of the renewals online. We are hopeful this average will continue to grow as we make modifications to the online renewal to allow for additional business entities with a single qualifier to renew online. We are anticipating this to be released this summer, which will provide 95% of our current licensees the opportunity to renew online. As you can see in the chart at the bottom of the page, we also continue to see monthly increases with our online citation payment application. I'd like to thank the Enforcement Division for the seamless transition of adding online transactions into their processes. As you can see on the website statistics chart on page 76, visits to CSLB website and license check features continues to grow year over year. We believe CSLB website visits will increase as the CSLB IT release additional online services and as the Public Affairs Office continues promotion through social media and outreach. With more online services, it is even more crucial for IT division to protect our data, and also to make recovery of this data available when needed. As you may recall, about 2 years ago, CSLB lost 2 critical web servers hosted at the Department of Technology. As a result, our CSLB IT infrastructure team made significant improvements to our online reliability and data protection, and we continue to make progress. And on page 77 is our latest architectural design. Kevin, could you please bring this up? Thank you. So we have moved our entire website over to an environment managed both by Department of Consumer Affairs and CSLB, but it also continues to be hosted at the State Data Center, which allows us to maintain CSLB's critical IT infrastructure in a Tier 3 data center, and this will be represented in the box in the middle. This new design enables us to replicate our data virtually in real time to DCA in case of a disaster, while we also have the latest backups in a secondary recovery site in Fresno. Now with the data protected and available in multiple locations, we are concentrating our efforts to ensure all servers, whether they are hosted at CSLB headquarters or the state data center are updated with the latest security patches and running current application, and also to our operating system software. If you would turn with me to page 78 of the IT strategic plan update. For item 5.13, DCA's Office of Information Services provided us with the requirements for e-signatures, giving us the ability to align our objectives with item 5.14, where we continue to evaluate online products to assist us with authentication, authorization, and licensee user management. Continuing on to objective item 5.16, CSLB IT continues its online accessibility and has updated over 5,100 online documents to make them ADA compliant. We will continue to make all future documents ADA compliant available on our website. Objective item 5.21. CSLB developers are enhancing the SCORE application, which is a system used by our CSLB exam development unit to develop and store test data. This will conclude the information technology update. I'm available if the board has any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Hi, this is Susan Granzella. Frank Altamura and I were the IT committee. We were able to meet with Jason after a period of time, and Jason, you did a great job in presenting where our data is stored and giving us a better understanding of how that is all managed. So great job, Jason, and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comment? Okay, seeing none. Jason, thank you for your report. Shelley, is there any public comment?
Not seeing any chats, no Q&A requests, and no hand raises.
Outstanding. So that was strictly informational, so no board actions required. Next, D8. Here we go. The election of officers. At our March 25th, 2021 board meeting, I appointed Kevin Albanese and Johnny Simpson to the nomination committee to recommend to the board a slate of officers for the positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary. I now turn the floor over to Kevin and Johnny to announce the recommended slate of officers. Kevin, the floor.
Morning. Oh, thank you, David. Johnny Simpson and I have been honored and enjoyed serving on the nomination committee. Thank you. We recently met to consider the requests of our fellow board members for the 3 officer positions, and our recommendation is as follows. We recommend and nominate Susan Granzella for chair and Mary Teichert for vice chair. For the position of secretary, 2 board members have requested consideration for the secretary position, Diana Love and Michael Mark. Based upon multiple board member interest, coupled with the fact that this is the first time many board members will go through the election process, it is the nomination committee's recommendation that the board consider both Diana Love and Michael Mark for the position of secretary, and that both Diana and Michael be provided with the opportunity to address the board. With that, I turn it back to you, Chair Delatorre, to proceed with the elections.
Okay, thank you both. We will now begin the nomination process. For each officer position, I will state the nominated candidate and the committee recommends. Let me repeat that. I will state the nominated candidate that the committee recommended. Then I will ask if there is a motion from the floor for any other individual board members would like to nominate. Candidates will then be given up to 3 minutes to make their statement or describe why they are qualified for the position. If there is only one nominee for the position, members can vote by yes, no, or abstain. If there are multiple candidates for a position, Then board members will vote in alphabetical order by stating the candidate's name they support. The nominee to receive a majority of the affirmative votes will win that officer position. I will now proceed to the nomination for the office of chair. The committee recommends nomination of Susan Granzella. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair from the floor? Okay, seeing none, there being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Susan, care to make a brief statement?
Yes, I joined the board in late 2014, and it has been an honor to serve on the board throughout this period of time. I've been on all of the committees, worked on documentation, and we revised that, and on nominating committees, and I've been able to experience a lot of different tasks and responsibilities on the board. So I look forward to serving in that capacity, and I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, we also look forward to you serving. Shelley, are there any public comments?
I'm not seeing any hand raises, chat requests, or Q&A requests.
Thank you. Elise, I'll ask for roll call.
Kevin Albanese,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Abstain.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Michael Mark,
Yes.
Jimmy Wayne,
Yes.
Johnny Simpson,
Yes.
Mary Tykert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Felice. Next is a nomination of vice chair. The committee recommends nomination of Mary Tykert. Are there any other nominations for vice chair from the floor? There being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Mary, care to make a brief statement?
Thank you very much. I'm honored by the nomination. I've appreciated my time on the board, and it's reemphasized the value of having a license in this state. The diligence of the staff has been impressive and helpful, and I look forward to being of additional help to the board, both in the current capacity in this office if I'm elected, and also with expanded opportunities for women and minorities. I've enjoyed the work we've been doing on that front and think there's a ton of opportunity for the board going forward. So thank you for the nomination.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Shelley, any public comment?
Not seeing any chats, Q&As, or hand raises.
Thank you. Felice, roll call, please.
Kevin Albanese,
Another enthusiastic yes.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Yes.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Michael Mark,
Yes. Yes.
Jimmy Wayne,
Yes.
Johnny Simpson,
Yes.
Mary Tykert.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Felice. Last is the nomination of board secretary. The committee recommends that Diana Love and Michael Mark be considered. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Okay, seeing none, there be no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. I will ask each candidate to make a brief statement. Diana, would you care to make a brief statement?
Good morning. Yes, I would. Thank you for the nomination and the opportunity to speak. Again, my name is Diana Love. I live in Palmdale. I've been there for 20 plus years. I have a degree in gerontology under the study of aging. And I want to take this opportunity to continue my growth within CSLB, bringing in diversity and equity to keep active and engage in this important role on the executive officer position leadership role. I want to start by saying I was appointed by Governor Newsom in 2019 to represent a statewide senior organization. I am currently the chair of the Public Affairs Committee and a member on the Enforcement Committee for this body. I am also a member of the California Senior Legislature and the immediate past president and current second vice president of the Los Angeles Commission for Older Adults, and I'm also a member of several other organizations. I have 25 plus years of current and past public service and working history, working with children, older adults, age members with disabilities, LGBTQ+, mental health, legislation, nonprofit and secretarial and parliamentary duties give me the foundation for success in working in leadership positions within the communities in all 58 counties. And per the procedure manual of CSLB board administration and staff responsibilities, the secretary shall serve as the board's budget liaison with staff and shall assist staff in the monitoring and reporting of the budget to the board. I have the qualifications in public service and work history to complete those responsibilities. In addition to those responsibilities, I would like to have a more active role in the secretary position, and I am proposing that the secretary reviews the board minutes for accuracy prior to distribution. I'm looking forward to broadening my working relationship with other staff and board members, and I'm focused on supporting the significant progress that CSLB will bring in 2021 and beyond. Our vision is to always protect the consumers, and I am asking and would be honored to have your support and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Michael, care to make a brief statement?
Hopefully you can see me. Yes, thank you, Board Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board on this nomination. I am looking to serve in this position as secretary. Just like Ms. Love, she is a great candidate for this board. I also would like to make sure and step up to the opportunity to serve the consumers of California in a more of a leadership role. I am a labor leader in my specific union, and as stated when I spoke and learned more about this specific position, dealing with budgets, I do deal with budgets within my own organization, and then also with the specific building trades. In the end, there's every board member on this, every board member is qualified here and wouldn't be here sitting here today for this specific position. I'm looking to serve the people of California in this more of a leadership role. When dealing with the consumers, this is a consumer-based organization, and my experience as a labor leader has done that, working for my specific people within the unions and making sure that all workers are lifted. And with my experience in the construction industry, we really do see the partnership of the working men and women that are out there with the contractors, and that is why it's great to make sure that the CSLB continues to be a success, making sure that there is enforcement, that there's licensing the contractors, and making sure that in the end the consumer is protected in the state of California. So I don't really want to go into all my qualifications. My bio is up online, but specifically, I do want to say that I would appreciate your support and also Miss Love is a great candidate as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any public comment, Shelley?
Not seeing any hand raises, chat, or Q&A requests at this time.
Okay. Board members, you will need to state by name who you are voting for. Okay. Elise, roll call, please.
Kevin Albanese,
Diana Love.
Frank Altamura,
Diana Love.
Augie Beltran,
Michael Mark.
Ronnie Cobos,
Michael Mark.
David Delatorre,
Michael Mark.
Miguel Galarza,
Diana Love.
Don Giordano,
Diana Love.
Susan Granzella,
Diana Love.
Diana Love,
Diana Love.
Michael Mark,
Abstain.
Jimmy Wayne,
Diana Love.
Johnny Simpson,
Michael Mark.
Ray Taggart,
Diana Love.
and Diana wins the nomination.
Well, congratulations to our new officers. Or officer.
Thank you so much.
The newly elected chair, vice chair, and secretary will assume the duties to their respective offices on July 1st. Congratulations. So moving on, moving to public affairs overview and update.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I have a comment since I do love documentation. On page 65, there was an administrative update that I believe we kind of we missed. And it's just a couple of pages, but I think the staff would like to go over that. We went directly to the information technology. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Transparency is our main objective, right?
Right. And I'm not sure who on the staff is making this presentation, but
So if there's no objective from the board, if we'll move back, or from the public, we'll just go back and report on this. Legal, is that legal?
Yes, that's fine. So we just need who will be presenting this item.
That would be me, Mr. Chair, Mike Maliza, Chief of Administration.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. The Administration Division update begins on page 65 of your board packet. Information covering recruitment activities and personnel transactions in the personnel unit for the last quarter are covered on pages 65 and 66. As you can see on the chart on page 66, the average monthly vacancies are trending down. So that's good news there. The activities in the business services unit for the last quarter can be found on page 67. These updates include activities on our facilities, our contracts, and procurement. I'd like to have you turn to page 68 of your board packet, and I will focus on the CSLB training interest and survey results. CSLB Executive Staff commissioned a survey of employees regarding their training needs in mid-April 2021. The purpose was to obtain feedback directly from our staff on areas they were interested in learning more about, and give our employees an opportunity to identify other areas of interest that management may not have been aware of. So in regards to additional training. The survey was distributed to CSLB employees on April 20, 2021, with a due date of April 26. Of CSLB's 430 employees statewide, 92 completed the survey, response rate of 21%. The top 3 employee training subject areas that were identified for requests for accessing more information about CSLB's internal databases, which is TEAL. They've also asked for more information on solar code requirements, more training on that. And 3, how federal OSHA and Cal OSHA regulations impact California contractors. The entire list of training topics from the survey and the response rates are found in the table at the bottom of page 68 if you wanted to reference that. So the next steps would include creating, coordinating, and providing these training classes to all CSLB staff that address these training needs that they've identified. CSLB will provide these training classes to all of our staff throughout the state, up and down California, while considering social distancing requirements and protocols as required. And we'll use tools such as online training when needed. So this survey and its results assisted CSLB in prioritizing and identifying staff's training needs. It was very helpful. I'll go on to the strategic plan items. Those are covered on pages 69 through 71. All of the items have been completed except for one last item, that's item 5.7. That is the standardizing of human resource processes to increase efficiency in regard to personnel matters. The target date for that is July 2021. Have to report that everything is on schedule there. I don't see anything that would hinder that. And so staff are in the process of creating a supervisory section for CSLB's intranet, and we're putting tools such as frequently asked questions, checklists, and we're uploading that section for supervisors to reference and help them out. That concludes my report on the activities of the Administration Division. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me at this time.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any board comments? Seeing none. Shelley, any public comment?
Not seeing any hands or requests in the chat or Q&A.
Outstanding, and I do apologize for overseeing that. And I want to thank board member Susan Granzella for catching that. So now we fast forward over to Public Affairs. I turn it over to Public Affairs Chair Diana Love.
Thank you, Board Chair. Again, my name is Diana Love, Chair of the Public Affairs Committee. I am on one of the board's public members and represent a statewide senior citizen organization. I am pleased to announce that Joya Imard has joined CSLB as the new Public Affairs Manager. Ms. Imard is a former journalist and marketing and communications professional. She comes to us from the Department of Water Resources, where she was a communications manager. Previously, she was an information officer in the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Public Affairs and at the Board of Pharmacy. I recently met with Joya and executive leadership, and we discussed a possible social media campaign on the importance of using licensed contractors featuring seniors sharing personal stories. We also discussed conducting a licensee survey and revamping the newsletter. Under the Public Affairs Program Update, you can find the Public Affairs Update beginning on page 89. I will cover a few highlights. Disaster response is top of mind with staff, especially after Governor Newsom's recent drought emergency declaration in 2 counties. CSLB's post-disaster mission is to help ensure that home and business owners are not harmed by unlicensed or unscrupulous contractors who might try to take advantage of them during the rebuilding process. From July 2020 to March 31st, 2021, CSLB staff participated in 23 local assistance centers or disaster recovery centers. You can see that list on page 90. CSLB continues to serve on 2 Office of Emergency Services multi-agency task force, and in February, Public Affairs staff presented information for disaster survivors along with an invitation to partner with CSLB on disaster rebuilding workshops. As noted on page 91, CSLB's social media has played an important role in keeping licensees and consumers up to date on the changing availability for CSLB services during the pandemic. CSLB's social media followers have been increasingly regularly. Social media has also helped us share disaster-related information on the importance of checking a license. During the 2020 wildfires, CSLB's next door posts in declared disaster areas were seen by more than 415,000 people. Our team presented CSLB information at 5 virtual senior scam stoppers from January through March, with an average attendance of 25 to 50 people. CSLB will resume in-person seminars once health restrictions are lifted. Public Affairs released 5 consumer and licensee videos in the first quarter of 2021. Quick Tips Complaint Form, Spring Home Project Tips, How to File a Complaint, and a Get Licensed to Build Public Service Announcements video, and The Landscaper versus Gardener. I find these videos are great for sharing important information in an easy to understand manner. At this time, I would like to play one of the videos for you. Kevin, please play the video, The Landscaper versus Gardener, for the board.
Spring is here, and it's time to knock out some of those outdoor projects. So, do you hire a landscaper or a gardener? And what's the difference between them? Gardeners are generally focused on maintaining your yard, such as mowing, weeding, cultivating, and trimming shrubs. They're usually not required to have a state license unless they perform construction-related work or conduct any repairs that cost over $500 in labor and materials. Landscapers are typically involved in outdoor building work. Here are some common landscaping projects that require a license. For projects like these, look for active C27 landscaping contractors who are licensed by CSLB. Some projects, such as those that include artificial turf, vinyl swimming pool liners, or irrigation systems, may be performed by a C61 or D12 limited specialty or synthetic products contractor. C27 landscaping contractors who take on these projects may only perform the work in conjunction with a larger landscaping project. C27 landscaping contractors who take on pools, spas, or hot tubs must also hold a C53 swimming pool specialty license or subcontract with a contractor who holds the C53 license. Always remember, any construction project that is $500 or more in combined labor and material costs requires a state licensed contractor. Avoid getting scammed by doing your research, getting 3 bids, and checking references and job sites. For more tips on hiring a licensed contractor, visit cslb.ca.gov/10tips.
Thank you, Kevin. Turning back to the board packet, in January, CSLB released the 2021 Law Book and published the winter edition of the California Licensed Contractor newsletter. I also want to provide an update on some items from the 2019 through 2021 strategic plan, which begins on page 109. First, item 4.5 requires researching the feasibility of creating a text alert program to communicate with licensees and consumers. Currently, mobile phone numbers are being voluntarily collected through online renewal and home improvement salesperson registration. IT is taking the lead on this effect and is researching identity management systems to allow licensees to update their licensing records with the added ability to send licensees notifications and reminders. Item 4.6 is to expand website content to keep industry and licensees up to date on relevant information. Colored banners and a new alert section were added to the CSLB website homepage, and the page layout was updated. Also, a new web page was created for posting and viewing videos. PAO is currently working with IT to develop a news web page to post articles. Under item 4.8, noted that Public Affairs would develop orientation videos. A new orientation video for new staff, managers, and board members has been completed. Item 4.9 is in partnership with IT to review and update the website to ensure information presented to the public is accurate and accessible. Since January 2021, Public Affairs has updated the homepage, clarified information on the senior scam stoppers and consumer complaint pages, and added a new web page for licensing refugees. Lastly, item 4.10 requires the online courses and content be created in partnership with enforcement and licensing. The Public Affairs team helped develop an online building permit compliance training course for licensees who failed to comply with local building department permit requirements. The training course was posted in May 2020 on CSLB's YouTube channel and promoted through social media. In 2021, 6 industry bulletins to educate licensees have been developed. As you can see, Public Affairs has been very productive this year. Are there any board members who have questions or comments? Shelley, does anyone from the public have any comments?
I am not seeing any hand raises or any requests through the chat or Q&A at this time.
Okay, thank you. Chair, that concludes the Public Affairs update.
Thank you, Secretary-elect, for your report. Now we turn it over to, we go over to enforcement. We are now in the enforcement section of our agenda. I turn it over to Enforcement Committee Chair Kevin Albanese.
Thank you very much, Chair De La Torre. Enforcement program update begins on page 117 of your packet with investigation highlights followed by a statistical summary of enforcement activities. As demonstrated by the featured investigation highlights in the packet, the investigatory focus has been on the more egregious violators of contractors' law. Specifically, I'd like to bring your attention to the highlight on page 118 entitled Additional Charges for Solar Violator. George Savinoff has been a focus of some of the most complex solar investigations. Mr. Savinoff has operated in the shadows with the assistance of multiple licensed contractors targeting vulnerable populations in the Central Valley and Southern California. The victims were often convinced under false pretenses to sign solar contracts paid for by complex financial agreements they simply couldn't afford. Additionally, the projects were commonly abandoned, leaving homeowners with a non-functional solar system in addition to unbearable financial burdens. In February of 2020, multiple CSLB investigations led to the filing of 22 criminal counts in San Diego County. Charges included theft by false pretense, diversion of construction funds, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. Due to the pandemic-related restrictions on custodial populations, Savinoff was not incarcerated, and yes, he continued to engage in predatory sales tactics and solar loan fraud. In May of 2021, he was arraigned for additional felony charges. The judge presiding over the case ordered him incarcerated and set bail at $175,000, including a stipulation that he could not use ill-gotten gains to pay for his bail. After about a week, he did post bail, but he continued to be held until he provided his passport because the court considered him a flight risk. He's now been released from custody and his next court date is July 13th. Let's hope he shows up. On page 119, we have an investigation center licensee settlement example. A 92-year young World War II veteran was in contract with a licensed roofing contractor to complete $1,800 worth of a failing roof. Shortly after the project was completed, winter storm came and damaged some of the recently repaired roof. Homeowner made several attempts to contact a licensee, but to no avail. They turned to the CSLB, and our special investigator assigned to the case determined that the homeowner was not comfortable with the licensee returning and just preferred a refund. The investigator subsequently contacted the contractor, and the licensee not only agreed to pay a full refund, but the investigator took the extra measure and hand-delivered the restitution check to the very satisfied homeowner. Next, we'll look at a few statistics that begin on page 120. During fiscal year July 2020 to March 21, we initiated 11,479 investigations, which is 2,500 fewer than last year. The decrease in incoming complaints has resulted in lower caseloads in the investigation centers. These lower caseloads provide an opportunity for investigative center staff to increase proactive enforcement by educating non-compliant contractors on contract and business requirements. An example of this approach will be further discussed in the solar agenda item with implementation of the PUC net energy metering solar consumer protection investor-owned utility audit requirement, and yes, that's a mouthful. Back to SWIFT, we expect the return of the special investigators that had been previously assigned to contract tracing by the end of June. In anticipation of adequate staffing, SWIFT leadership is creating a sting calendar that will allow for the scheduling of one sting each month in the central, southern, and northern areas of California for the remainder of 2021. If any board members are so inclined, I would encourage you to get with the enforcement chief and see if you can join on one of those stings. They are a lot of fun. The SWIFT units are looking forward to partnering with industry for sting sites and identifying sting targets. So if you have a remodeled house or something that could be used as a site, please let SWIFT know. Until then, SWIFT remains hard at work as documented in the press release covering the results of the March 16th and 17th operation in Bakersfield. 14 individuals were cited for allegedly placing illegal bids on home improvement projects, and some did not carry the proper workers' compensation insurance for their employees. There was a second sting operation in April in the city of Clovis, located in Fresno County, where 25 suspects were identified, 12 of which were referred to the district attorney. Moving on to page 127 begins the summary of the enforcement strategic objectives. I'd like to provide an update on a couple of the items that are ongoing. Starting with item 2.7, provide training opportunities to improve morale and staff knowledge. I am happy to report that we've identified 2 dedicated trainers, Joshua Eisenberg and Christine Lee, CSLB's Attorney General liaisons. They have designed a training program that has been approved by the Supervising Assistant Attorney General Carl Son, and we look forward to kicking off this program in a couple months. Item 2.9 encourages the recruitment of individuals for available positions at CSLB, in addition to providing information on the path to licensure. In recent months, Geraldine Middleton, a special investigator based in Orange County Investigative Center, has conducted outreach to provide information about the contracting field, the licensing process, and the CSLB to members of underserved communities in Southern California. Thank you, Geraldine, for taking the lead and making an impact. This report is informational only, no action required from the board, but I will open it up for any comments from any board members. Any public comment, Shelley?
I am not seeing any hand raises or requests through the chat or Q&A.
Fantastic. Then we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Supervising Special Investigator 2, Cynthia Moore, to provide overview and highlights of the Intake Mediation Center. Cynthia has been a statewide program manager for CSLB's Intake and Mediation Program for more than 3 years. Cynthia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Took me a second to get myself unmuted there. Can you hear me all right? I'm very excited to tell you about the Intake and Mediation Centers, also referred to as the IMCs. I could not be prouder of the highly motivated staff. The work they do is hard and makes a positive work environment mandatory. IMC staff work very hard because they truly care about the consumers and the contractors. They work effectively with all complaint parties to find the best resolution in the public interest. Now that the staff are physically apart, they frequently call and email each other. They share ideas to resolve disputes and overcome complaint handling obstacles. Consumers benefit from using a licensed contractor due to our highly motivated IMC staff that are here to help them resolve their dispute. They get great satisfaction from settling licensee complaints. If you walk through the IMC, you'll often hear little celebrations when someone has settled a case. Or you may hear them tirelessly explain to a consumer why they should not hire an unlicensed contractor, even if they charge less. You'll see family photos and birthday balloons at their workstations. If it's a holiday, you can be guaranteed an amazing potluck during lunch breaks. IMC staff save the public well over $20 million each year through restitution and corrective work. 50% of licensee cases are settled in the IMC. Think about that for a minute. We settle half of the consumer filed cases in the IMC with restitution to an injured party. These consumers never have to go through a full investigation or pursue civil recourse. Mind you, the board goal is just 30%. On average, IMC staff work 30 cases per month and appropriately disposition over 70% of the licensee complaints in one way or another. The cases that are not settled may be resolved because the violation was minor and an advisory notice or letter of admonishment was issued. We may also close a case because the consumer does not want to cooperate or if there's insufficient evidence to support a violation. This allows CSLB to handle the 12,000 plus complaints we receive annually, and the investigation centers can focus their resources on the most egregious cases. If we added the 70% to the investigators' workload, we would not be as effective in protecting California consumers as we are today. Let me give you a quick overview of what the mediation process looks like. The complaint process starts with a complaint form. Our most popular form is the consumer complaint form that's also used by unpaid subcontractors and suppliers, and even general contractors who have poorly performing subcontractors. We also have advertising, permit, and building department specific complaint forms. Our newest form is the solar complaint form that was added on April 23rd and is used only for solar projects. Staff use these forms to gather information about the complaint. CSRs review the complaint and the licensee's history to determine the best course of action. The CSR will typically call the consumer first to gather all the facts and determine how to settle the complaint. This can be a lengthy conversation, and when emotions are involved, it can be quite difficult. The CSR then calls the contractor to explain the items of complaint, point out potential violations, and attempt to settle the complaint. This settlement may be money to complete or correct the project, or the contractor may return and complete the work themselves. Once a settlement is agreed upon, the CSR will address any violations with the contractor and issue an advisory letter or a letter of admonishment as appropriate. CSRs are also authorized to cancel false workers' compensation exemptions, requiring the contractor to comply with workers' compensation insurance requirements within 45 days or have the license suspended. Mediation is not available for non-licensee complaints. The IMC identifies the non-licensee and sends the case to the investigative center for further investigation. Staff often find these to be the most disturbing of cases. Consumers have little chance of getting any money back. They often see seniors who are taken for substantial amounts of money and often left to live in a home with extremely poor workmanship. Therefore, we really take a lot of time to convince potential consumers to only use a licensee. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to brag about my staff. Are there any questions?
Cynthia, thank you so much for your, oh, can you mute? Because you're getting background. Thank you so much for your efforts and the efforts of your staff. Most oftentimes, you are the face of the CSLB to the consumer, and You do just a fantastic job in your team. This item is informational. There is no action required of the board, but I would like to open up. There's any board comments on this item? And Shelley, are there any public comments?
I am currently not seeing any hand raises nor requests through the chat or Q&A.
Outstanding. Cynthia, thank you again very much for your report and for all the efforts that you and your team provide for the board. All right, Solar Task Force update and statistics. We are now on page 139 of your packet. This agenda item introduces the new solar complaint form and provides an update on the 2 decisions proposed by the PUC voted on at our March meeting of the board. Regretfully, the complaint form in the packet is the general consumer complaint form and not the specific solar complaint form. However, that form is depicted on this slide that Kevin's going to put up and is also available on the CSLB website. So here's the form. The solar complaint form aims to improve the efficiency of the processing and handling of these complaints, but it also collects valuable information that aids in our internal tracking processes, including identifying the primary reason for filing the complaint, and this information is required for an annual report as mandated by PUC, specifies how the customer financed the installation, requests the homeowner indicate if a battery storage system was included in the contract, and request permission from the homeowner to acquire utility documents for the purposes of an investigation easing privacy concern violations. On page 143 of your packets is an update on the 2 PUC proposed decisions that the board was briefed on at its last meeting. As page 143 indicates, the 2 decisions were modified as part of the PUC rulemaking process and reissued to stakeholders in May. Updates were made to the decisions as follows. As it relates to the Recovery Fund, the title of the proposal was changed from Recovery Fund to Assistance Fund, and the proposal previously did not consider solar consumers using PACE financing to be eligible for the fund, and the updated decision includes PACE users for Assistance Fund payout. As it relates to the enhanced audit proposal, it directs IOUs, investor-owned utilities. We have a lot of acronyms in this particular one, so I'll try to identify those. Directs IOUs to establish a web-based search engine that allows agencies like ours to retrieve new interconnection application data and documents. It requires IOUs to share its semi-annual spot audit of NEM, which I believe is the new connection. Somebody could help me out. The NEM connection applications with the Solar Task Force Agency. It requires IOUs to maintain a public list of solar providers who have violated CSLB, Public Utility Commission, or Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, as well as establish a procedure for those names to be removed from that list, and requires the IOUs to collect 2 additional pieces of information for the interconnection packets: the home improvement salesperson registration number and the name of any entities financing the solar project. The board voted to support these proposals at its March meeting. Now, regarding the proposed Solar Recovery Fund, I received fantastic news last night that the legislature may allocate $5 million to provide restitution to financially injured solar consumers. Board members in attendance at the February 2021 Enforcement Committee meeting will recall PUC Commissioner Guzman Aceves' presentation regarding the PUC's possible establishment of a solar recovery fund. The commissioner mentioned that to ensure success of the recovery fund, it may be necessary to go to the legislature in addition to or instead of the PUC rulemaking about a recovery fund. On May 24th, 2021, after the packet was completed, CSLB learned about 2 letters requesting amendments to the budget bill, one from a senator, one from an assembly member. The letters request a one-time allocation of $4 million to be available for homeowners financially injured by residential solar systems. The proposal is $4 million for consumer restitution and $1 million for implementation and outreach. The letters propose that CSLB would determine the consumer eligibility for fund restitution, accept claims, and pay out amounts to victims. The letters propose the program will be based on the Nevada Residential Recovery Fund. This budget request was heard in the Senate Budget Committee as well as the Assembly Budget Committee on June 2nd, which was yesterday, and the budget item was passed without discussion. The proposal is sponsored by the Dolores Huerta Foundation in partnership with the California PUC, and based upon testimony and comments in both committees, it is likely, but not certain, that this proposal would be in the final budget. After the budget bill amendments get through the floor of both houses, there will need to be a budget trailer bill with legislative language to work out how CSLB could implement this fund. The legislature has till June 15th to pass the budget for this next fiscal year. CSLB staff will work with PUC staff and legislative staff to provide technical assistance on the budget trailer bill language. If this measure is a success, it will likely take the place of the establishment of that PUC recovery fund. CSLB staff will have a meeting with PUC next week to discuss next steps and will be actively engaged in workshops in the coming weeks to establish the procedures and protocols for implementation of these new programs. This is an informational item only, and there is no action required from the board, but I will open it up to board comment or question.
Kevin, this is the moderator. I did receive confirmation that NEM stands for Net Energy Metering.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I have a question. The solar, it's the solar complaint form. Is that actually available now? Or was this the draft?
I am quite certain it's on the website now.
Okay. And
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, good. And is it also available in languages other than English? Because I
believe-
have some of the forms.
Yeah, I don't believe it is at this time. They'd have to use the Google Translate, but it would be something we certainly are looking to do in the future.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Seeing, hearing none. Shelley, are there any public comments?
I am currently not seeing any hand raises nor any requests for the chat or Q&A.
Fantastic. Chair De La Torre, this concludes the Enforcement Committee update.
Thank you, Kevin. Now, leading us through the licensing and testing portion of our meeting is Licensing Committee Chair Jim Rain. Jim, floor is all yours.
Thank you, David. Our first item, licensing and testing program update and statistical summary. Starting on page 149 is the licensing overview. Most processing times continue to improve, and the board continues to receive more than 2,000 applications each month. And from January through March, we received an average of 9,900 renewals per month. Justin will provide us a brief overview and mention problem areas he is working to resolve. Justin?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim. As Jim said, our applications are looking all right. As Stacy commented earlier in the meeting, we are still trying to get them through the pipeline, but they are coming in at a pretty good clip as they were pre-COVID, apart from the early pandemic months. Moving to page 150, I'll just look at our processing times briefly. This is, I think, the biggest thing that we're still working on. I'll direct your attention to our original exams and our renewals. Our original exams right now are still hovering at 8 weeks. We are finally fully staffed in that unit, and we do expect that to be down by the next time I report to you in the fall. And renewals at the moment is fluctuating between 2 weeks of processing time and 3 weeks of processing time. And I want to thank very much our IT division for continuing to move our renewals online. We're very excited about that, and I think once we actually get that online later this summer, that's really going to help our statistics as well because it'll reduce our processing workload. Moving on to page 152, this just points out the numbers that Jim already stated. Our renewals are really looking good, which is consistent with Stacy's report earlier today. So we are happy about that. And then with that, Our fingerprint processing remains under 2 weeks. Experience verification remains consistent. And the last thing I really do want to highlight for you is page 158. Our License Information Center, so our call center, is doing remarkably well. You'll see that the March numbers were starting to come down, but they're starting to peak back up at 13 minutes and 45 seconds. Since March, we haven't seen an average wait time above 6 minutes. And the longest wait time that I've seen in the last few weeks was around 19 minutes. So no one's been waiting for more than 20 minutes, at least for a month. That's largely thanks to our IT division helping us get our call center online and using our phone system. And that completes my comments. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Justin. Any board member comments or questions for Justin? Right, seeing none. Shelley, do any members of the public have any questions or comments?
I am not seeing any requests through the chat or Q&A and no hand raises.
All right, thank you. Next, we move to the testing program update, which begins on page 162. I would like to point out that staff have made valiant efforts to reduce the testing backlog, and as you can see, over 5,000 exams were scheduled in March. This is very impressive because exam sites are working at 50% capacity due to social distancing requirements. We've seen similar numbers for April and May and currently expect the same or more for June when social distancing restrictions are expected to be relaxed. Our goal is to conduct 5,500 exams per month to reduce the now 3,000 exam backlog by the end of summer. Please note, if social distancing restrictions are loosened, this backlog could be eliminated in a matter of weeks. Staff is closely monitoring updated guidance by the state on this. And Justin is available if the board has any questions. Any board member questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Shelley, anything from the public?
Also seeing none.
Thank you. Next, item 1A, review, discussion, and possible action on the licensing and testing 2019-21 strategic plan. An update of the licensing and testing strategic plan items can be found on page 166. Justin will provide us a quick update on the status of the various items. Justin?
Thank you, Jim. So there's no new target dates we're seeking at this time. I'll just quickly run through our items. Item 1.1 is complete. That's on page 166, as Jim said. Item number 2, we continue to release classification determinations basically quarterly, and that continues. Item 1.3, we are actually rolling out the B2 license classification that already David spoke at length about. We are accepting applications now as of June 1st, and the test will be ready to go. We've been saying August 1, but actually I learned recently that we do tests on Wednesday, so it's actually going to be August 4th will be when the test will be available. Item number 1.4, Mike probably will give you a little bit more detail in his strategic plan update, but our regulations for AB 2138 regarding our criminal background review have taken effect, and that was effective of May 3rd. Moving to the next page on 167, item 1.5. Our work internally as staff was completed last year, and most recently a bill was introduced that Mike will probably speak a little bit more about, SB 607, which would increase our bond amounts to $25,000. Item 1.6 is looking at outsourcing exam administration. I'll not touch on that because that's actually a separate agenda item, but we continue to be on course with that plan. Item 1.7, we continue to update our website with the IT division and the public affairs division and just try to clean as many items up, make it a little less confusing, less wordy, and we continue to do that. Item number 1.8, we have not yet begun. We'll be looking at that this fall. Moving to page 168, item 1.9, we are continuing to create online content with the public affairs division. That's an ongoing project that we continue to do. Item 1.10, we're very excited about the public data portal that was released. In addition, online payment and license lookup functions are working well. I communicate with our licensing schools frequently, and there's no concerns on providing that information and getting that data downloaded. Number 1.11, we're continuing to update our protocols with our call center. We're also very happy. Recently, the IT division was able to give us a program called Jabber, and that enables us, regardless of where we're working, for all of the units to be able to manage their license lines. So when the call center needs to refer a call to somebody else for more detail, that's becoming much more seamless, which we're very happy about. And finally, item 1.12, we continue to look for surveys and conduct feedback on who our subject matter experts are. We're also excited that we're able to hold remote workshops. And so for our occupational analysis, we're doing it very similarly as how this is done on WebEx. And when we're actually going into doing our item banking, we're able to do that in a 2-center location here in Sacramento and in Norwalk. And that completes my update.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Any board members have questions or comments? All right. Shelley, anything from the public?
I am not seeing any requests at this time.
All right. Thank you. Item number 2 is an update on outsourcing our exam administration. You can find an update for the board's exam outsourcing project on page 171. As a reminder, the board voted in December of 2019 to outsource its exam administration. In 2020, the board pursued and received needed legislative approval to outsource exams, and now the exam units are working to transition to an outside vendor. Staff met with the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Professional Examination Services, and after conducting a review of DCA's vendor, PSI, staff concluded PSI exams can meet the board's needs and began the process of joining the DCA. Master contract, that process is ongoing. Parallel to that process, staff are working with DCA to set up supplies and booklets for the various exam sites throughout the state, refining procedures for PSI exams to follow, and developing a portal for PSI and CSLB's IT systems to communicate for scheduling, result, and statistical purposes. Based on the current progress, staff anticipates Bay Area candidates testing at PSI centers January 2nd, 2022, and in spring 2022, fully transitioning all applicants statewide to PSI for examination purposes. While all this is occurring, staff will be winding down facility leases and addressing any staff transition issues. Until this process is complete, we will provide a progress update on these efforts at each board meeting. That concludes my update, and Justin is available if the board has any questions. Anything for Justin? Seeing none. Shelley, anything from the public?
Not seeing any requests at this time.
All right, thank you. Our last item, number 3, is an advisory committee update on women in construction. Moving to item 3, please turn to page 175. As you know, in the fall of last year, our board president appointed Mary Teichert and myself to oversee staff outreach efforts to promote women participation in the construction industry. CSLB partnered with the California Capital Women's Business Center and the North State Building Industry Association to put on a 3-part seminar designed to assist women and minorities in entering the construction industry. That initial effort successfully wrapped up last night. Board member Teichert did a wonderful job moderating all 3 sessions, and we both hope it will lead to many new licensees. Mary, do you mind sharing your thoughts on the events with the board?
Thank you, Jim. Yes, I appreciated the opportunity to have those conversations with the public and with several fantastic women and minority existing contractors. So I think the learnings and the lessons that were shared by the groups and the panels were helpful to the folks who attended. I think our next horizon is to do more research on what are some of the barriers and obstacles to additional people deciding to go become licensed contractors in their own right, and to make the next set of things available. But I think this initial set of outreaches was terrific. And I also want to give a shout out to Justin Paddock and his efforts to continue each person on the panel was not only able to listen to the discussions we had, but Justin also made himself available after the panels to address specific situations. So I thought they were a good, successful start, and I'm looking forward to the next things we do in this opening up of the contracting community to all of the people that would be wonderful additions to it. So thank you for getting that rolling, Jim.
Thank you, Mary, for doing a great job. It really, I think last night was over 160 participants, and the others were just as well attended. So reach out was wonderful. In the coming weeks, the partnership will be discussing next steps, and we encourage anyone to provide us feedback on the outreach opportunities. Any board comment? All right, Shelley, anything from the public?
I am not seeing anything at this time.
All right. And just as an aside, I just want to congratulate our new leadership team, all women, Susan, Mary, and Diana, going forward. So this concludes the licensing items on the agenda. Thank you, David.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Justin and Jim. The last items on today's agenda are specific to legislation. I now turn it over to Legislation Chair Augie Beltran.
Good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I want to let you all know that I do have a conflict on item 4D, SB 727. At that point, when we get to item 4D, I'll be handing it back over to David Delatorre, and then he can finish out the legislative part of our meeting. And also, congratulations to our new executive board. It's awesome. So with that, number one, we're going to review, discussion, and possible action on the legislation 2019-2021 strategic plan. The first item is on page 181 of your packet. Chief Jay is going to update us on the Legislative Division strategic plan. Chief, please clarify item 3.5 as it relates to home improvement stakeholders meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Yes, item 3.5, it does indicate that there was going to be a May meeting, and I just wanted to let folks know that that meeting did not wind up happening. But I do want to, Chair, if you don't mind, I do want to run through each of these strategic plan items quickly just to give an update. And there are no target dates to report here. Item 3.1, this is just our opportunity to collaborate regularly with industry on legislative ideas. We did a big meeting right before the pandemic in 2020, and we wanted to let the board know that we're planning another stakeholder meeting to discuss new legislative ideas late this summer. And that actually does tie into several of these other items. So I'm going to go out of order quickly here, and just to let everyone know, item 3.5, the home improvement contract requirements, and item 3.7, the license experience requirements. These are legislative ideas that we can develop through that stakeholder meeting. So we'll look forward to discussing those. Going back to item 3.3, this is basically half done. We were able to get some disaster-related protections in SB 1189 last year, the B2 remodeling bill. The issue of reviewing hazardous substances certification requirements will be a great discussion item for our next legislative stakeholder meeting. Moving quickly back to item 3.2, I will have an update on our workers' comp bill in our next section. Item 3.4, multiple qualifier responsibilities and bonding requirements. This is half done as well. The qualifier bond is proposed for an increase in a bill we'll discuss next section. And the multiple qualifier responsibilities is another concept that we can bring to stakeholders at our next meeting. Item 3.6, updating the penalties. That's basically done. We have AB 569, which we'll discuss next section. Item 3.8, the long-awaited fee increase. We'll discuss that next section. And that is what I had for the update on this item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Requires no action. Any comments from board members? I see no hands. Shelley, any comments from the public?
I also see no hands, nor do I see any requests in the chat or Q&A.
Wonderful. Number 2, update on CSLB sponsored bills. AB 246 Quirk, Contractors, Disciplinary Actions. We're on page 187. The legislative bill analysis of AB 246. It is a CSLB sponsored bill that would make a licensed contractor's unlawful dumping of construction debris a cause of disciplinary action against a contractor. The board has a support position on this bill. Chief, do you have any updates?
Nothing much to add to what's in the packet, other than I am scheduled to testify in support of the measure at the Capitol on Monday in Senate B&P. I'm excited to go back to the Capitol. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, are there any comments from board members? I see no hands. Shelley, anyone from the public?
I see nothing as well.
Very good. We're on AB 569 Grayson, Contractors, Civil Penalties, Letters of Admonishment. We are now on the review of Assembly Bill 569, which can be found on page 188. The CSLB sponsored bill increases the maximum civil penalty CSLB can assess against a contractor for most violations to $8,000 and to $30,000 for specified violations that include licensees contracting with an unlicensed contractor. It also authorizes CSLB to issue a letter of admonishment for more than one violation at a time. The board has a support position on this bill. And Chief, do you have any updates on this particular bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same deal as the last bill. They are both scheduled for Monday at the Capitol. One item actually I'm just thinking about on this bill, I don't think we've talked about, just so everybody is aware, when those fees go up in statute, we will need to do regulations because we have a long regulation with our maximum fee ranges. And we will have to adjust those, just so everybody knows. And that's what I have for that CSLB sponsored bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. This is a status update only. No further action is required from the board. At this time, I will take comment from the board or the public. I don't see any hands on the board. Public, Shelley?
I'm not seeing any either.
Okay. The next one is SB 216 Dodd, Contractors Workers' Compensation Insurance Mandatory Coverage. Now we're on page 189, SB 216. This is a CSLB sponsored bill that would require C8 concrete, C20 HVAC, and D49 tree service contractors to have a certificate of workers' compensation insurance policy on file with CSLB in the first year, and for all contractors by 2025. The board has a support position on this bill. Chief, do you have any updates on this bill?
Yes, so some somewhat unfortunate news to report on this one. The author's office did inform us on May 22nd, Saturday, that they have chosen to take up this measure next year. The legislature did put a limitation on the number of bills that can be moved this year to 12, so it required the author to shift some priorities. For perspective, authors might usually introduce twice that many, 12 bills was the cap. They usually do twice that many. So you will see in the next section that this appears to have happened to a lot of bills this year. But for everybody's awareness, all indications are that they do intend to move this bill next year. So we are still optimistic. Thank you.
And we are on the ground floor for next year, Chief?
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Is there any board comment on this bill? I see no hands. Any public comment?
Augie, you know I couldn't go without just saying something about SB 216. I hope that the legislature takes it up, and I hope this board continues to press this issue. I think it's a very important issue for consumers. It's a very important issue for contractors that are doing it the right way. And it's I'm disappointed that it got pulled, but optimistic next year it gets through quickly and with our support.
Thank you for your comments, Kevin. Just as an aside, this legislature had almost 2,600 bills that were introduced within the first month. And it has been a very cantankerous time at the state legislature. And in order to move the really important, the most important bills, many of them that the leadership decided that each would get 12 bills apiece. But I will tell you, this was a very, very popular bill in the industry, and there were plenty of letters of support. So yeah, hopefully SB 216 gets its legs in the next cycle. We now move on to number 3, update on previously considered pending legislation 2122. Now we're on page 191 of your packets. All of the bills in this section have been previously reviewed by the board at its March 2021 meeting. As a result, I'm asking staff to briefly go through the bills in this section on the agenda and provide any relevant updates on these measures the board should be aware of. The staff summaries of all of these bills in this section on the agenda are on pages 191 through 204. As these are status updates only, there will be no further action required. But feel free to ask any questions. I think we'll ask questions at the end of Chief's brief status report from both the public and the board. So go ahead, Chief.
Yes, I will try to be quick since the board has been apprised of these measures. At the last meeting, 484, I'll just go right in order here. 484 regarding alarm companies. The board remains at a watch, but nothing more to address than what's in the packet. The bill was amended to address our concerns. AB 646, the board did support this measure relating to removing expunged convictions from the website when appropriate, but this bill did not move out of appropriations. That's gonna be a theme today, you'll see. AB 899, this bill to raise the $500 exemption that the board did vote to oppose did not move out of committee and is now a 2-year bill. AB 1026, the board does not have a position. It was here because it involves fee reductions for armed forces. The package says it might move forward, but it wound up staying in appropriations as a 2-year bill. AB 1124, nothing to add to what's in the packet. We were happy to report that we did get our concern about this bill addressed. It was amended, and so there's no further action needed. AB 1129, Home Inspector License Law, nothing to add to the packet. It is a 2-year bill. AB 1136, the board doesn't have a position on this bill making pay solicitors financially responsible to harmed homeowners. But it did not move out. It was actually held in appropriations. Yes. So moving on to AB 1386. The board does not have a position. Again, it was here as an FYI about fee reductions for armed forces. It was also held in appropriations. SB 304, another bill to raise a $500 exemption. The board did vote to oppose it. It did not move out of appropriations and is now a 2-year bill. SB 430, SB 772, the last two on this list, they are very similar. They dealt with removing civil penalty burdens on small businesses. One was held in appropriations, the other remained in the initial policy committee. So that is a theme for this year, and that's the update, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief. Are there any questions from the board at this time? I see no hands. Shelley, do you see any hands from the public?
I do not. No hands and no requests for the chat or Q&A.
Thank you very much. We're now on number 4. Review, discussion, and possible action on 2122 pending legislation. Please turn to page 205 of your packets. The board has not previously considered the bills in this section of the agenda. On some of these measures, staff has made a recommendation for the board's consideration. We're going to start with AB 830 Flora, Business Department of Consumer Affairs Alarm Company Act, Real Estate Law. AB 830 is on page 207, which is an omnibus bill by the Vice Chair of the Assembly Business and Professions Committee. What do you got, Chief?
So AB 830 on page 207, yes, you heard alarm companies and real estate. What on earth is going on? Well, this bill doesn't currently affect CSLB. We did put it here as a placeholder because the word on the street was that language was requested by the construction industry to amend this bill to clarify license qualifier responsibilities. The qualifier responsibilities in 7068 of the Business and Professions Code, but it has not been amended. We understand it may still. So we're putting the word out to the board and we will absolutely update you as soon as it is amended, if it is amended. So that's the deal with that one. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a status update only. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public, Shelley?
Seeing none.
Thank you. We're on SB 607 Roth, professions and vacations. Please turn to page 208, SB 607. We're excited to report that this bill includes CSLB's necessary fee statute increase. Thank you, staff, for your diligent work in getting this increase into the bill. It will authorize CSLB to raise renewal, applicant, license maintenance, and transaction fees as necessary to support our special fund. It gives us the ability to meet our approved budgetary spending authority and develop a 4-month spending reserve over the next 4 or 5 years. The fee increases themselves can be viewed in the bill itself with the link on page 208 or in the board-approved fee study on our website for the December 2020 board meeting. The bill also includes consumer protections such as an increase of the contractor's license bond from $15,000 to $25,000. Chief, do you want to comment on this at all? I'll take that as a no.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a public thank you to the Senate BMP staff who dealt with CSLB's incessant nagging to help with our fee this year, and also a thank you to the author's office. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Senator Roth, for your consideration. The staff recommendation is to support SB 607. Are there any questions from the board? I see no hands. Shelley, anything from the public? Oh, I'm sorry, Susan?
Yes, I do have a question because this relates back to what we voted on, the board approved last December about our reserve. So I know this is late breaking news that was included in this bill. Congratulations, that's great news. But what does this mean as far as implementing those fee increases? Is there any way to predict when that might go into effect if indeed it's approved?
Thank you, Susan. Yes, so if the bill is successful this year and signed by the governor, the enactment date would be January of 2022. So the IT staff will try to hit the ground running at the end of this year as much as they can, because it's difficult to act when a bill is not signed, but we'll need to update our fees, and meetings are already happening on that front with licensing and IT. The way that it'll work with our renewals, the renewal fee is, they're sent out like three months in advance or 60 days in advance. So my understanding is that as it relates to the renewal fees, the first renewal to be affected would be March of 2022. But that's what we're looking at.
Very good, and thank you for your work on that.
Of course.
Chief, while you're still on, what's the next body it goes to in the assembly? Which committee?
It'll go to business and professions.
Okay. So I'd like to make a comment that any of you who would like, or any of you who belong to associations who would like to support this bill, letters of support to business and professions would be huge in moving it forward. At this time, I'd entertain a motion for staff recommendation to support SB 607. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Albanese and Diaz. Albanese and Delatorre. Any questions from the board members on the motion? Any questions from the public on the motion? Felice,
Not seeing anything.
Thank you, Shelley. Felice, please call roll call.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Kevin Albanese,
Aye.
Frank Altamira,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Rodney Cobolus,
Rodney's temporarily offline.
Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Diana Love,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jimmy Wayne,
Aye.
Johnny Simpson,
Aye.
Mary Tykert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn over item C to Chair Delatorre because I have a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Audrey. And to provide an overview on SB 727, I turn it back over to Mike Chemnitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this bill deals with the liability of direct contractors in private works contracts as opposed to public works for payment of wages and other contributions if a subcontractor fails to make those payments. Mainly what we wanted to share with you was that a prior version of this bill would have included CSLB in the tracking and monitoring of direct contractor liability on these various issues. But those provisions have since been amended out. So as of how the bill is written, CSLB is not involved in the bill. But prior to it being amended, CSLB did send a letter on page 211 that shares some technical information with the author's office that we did want to provide about CSLB's jurisdiction on this issue. So we just wanted to let the board know about the technical letter and to thank Chair David De La Torre for his help. But that is all I have on this item. It is on to the in the assembly now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Chair De La Torre. We're on item D, SB 757, Limon, Solar Energy System Improvements, Consumer Protection. We're now on page 212 for review of Senate Bill 757. This bill provides additional protections for consumers who contract for the installation of solar energy systems. It clarifies that solar energy systems are considered home improvement and that home improvement salespersons must identify themselves as registered to the contractor for whom they are making a sale. It also clarifies that the restriction on accepting payment in advance of work performed on a home improvement contract extends to such payments from lenders or financiers. Chief, would you like to share anything else on this bill?
Just that it is already on its way to Assembly B&P, and the bill does include, as Mr. Chair stated, additional consumer protections in the solar industry, which has obviously been a significant topic lately. So the staff recommendation is a support, but I don't have much else to add to what the Chair, Chel Beltran, stated. Thanks.
Thank you. Staff recommendation is support of 757. Before we take a motion, are there any comments from the board? Shelley, are there any comments from the public?
I am not seeing any hand raises nor requests from the chat or Q&A.
Thank you.
Hold
Chair,
on.
go ahead.
Nope, none.
Sounds good. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion from the board members.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Did you get that, Felice?
Yeah, De La Torre and Diana Love.
Perfect. All righty. So on the motion to support SB 757, are there any questions from the public?
I
Any
am not
questions?
seeing any at this time.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Felice, please call roll.
David De La Torre,
Aye.
Kevin Albanese,
Aye.
Frank Altamira,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
According to the
Rodney Cobos,
This is Dave again. Rodney is participating, however, he is muted. He did vote yes on SB 727. He's using the chat feature, so if we could perhaps use that for his vote. Thanks.
okay. Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
yes,
Diana Love,
Yes.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jimmy Wayne,
Yes.
Johnny Simpson,
Yes.
Mary Tykert.
Yes.
Mary?
I think she
Yes.
responded yes to it.
Sorry, I'm muted again. Yep, yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. On to our last item, E, SB 826, Committee on Business, Professions, and Economic. Am I looking at this right? Senate Bill 826. We're now on page 213 for review of Senate Bill 826. This bill is the Senate Business and Professions Committee's annual and omnibus bill for technical, non-substantive changes to the law. This year, the bill includes 4 recommendations approved by the board. Can you tell us those 4 recommendations or refresh our mind there, Chief?
Yes, they are all on page 213, and as the bill title indicates, they are technical, non-substantive changes. One clarifies that the CSLB is no longer hiring enforcement representatives, they are hiring special investigators. Another clarifies that the C-22 asbestos abatement contractor, which is created in regulation, not statute, is authorized to do asbestos work. Believe it or not, that wasn't in statute. It will hopefully be after this bill. We fixed a typo in our disclosure laws, the laws that relate to publicly disclosing complaints against contractors. And we fixed a typo in the solar disclosure document as it relates to the period of cancellation of a contract for those over 65. These are all technical and non-substantive, and that's what I have, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from the board? And Rodney, I'm looking at your chat, so if you want to ask a question, go ahead and type in. I see none. Shelley, anything from the public?
I am not seeing any hand raises nor requests through the chat or Q&A.
Wonderful. Staff recommendation is to support Senate Bill 826. The chair would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Sounded like Ruane and Delatorre.
Yes.
Thank you. Any board comment on the motion? Any public comment on the motion?
Seeing none.
Wonderful. Feliz, please call roll.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Kevin Albanese,
Aye.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie will respond in chat. Aye. Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Diana Love,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Johnny Simpson,
Aye.
Mary Tykert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to our new executive board. Kevin, I will miss you in our discussions, but you've got my phone number. And I know Nancy's not on the board right now or online, but I am definitely going to miss her wise and sage advice and conversations. With that, board chair, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Augie and Mike, for that update. So before I call for adjournment, this is the my last meeting as chair. So I'd like to thank Registrar David Fote, Vice Deputy Registrar Tanya Corcoran, Jason Hurtado, Mike Chemnensky, and the moderator, Shelby Jones, for your advice, support, and then helping me avoid stepping on any landmines during my tenure as board chair. I also like to thank, and it's important to always acknowledge the work that the departments under the CSLB umbrella do. Your work is definitely not overlooked. along with the entire CSLB staff. Your work is greatly appreciated, and I look forward to Susan Granzella's tenure. All right, thank you so much. And any board member care to comment?
David?
I'd just like to say thank you for all the very kind words, Augie. Thank you, and this has been a really fun and proud time of my life to be part of this board. There still may be a chance, I guess, Nancy and I, depending on the governor's appointment process, you may see us at the next meeting, but I think that's up in the air. But I wish everybody the best, and really proud to be leaving with 3 women in charge of the board. Congratulations to the new folks coming in. David, hell of a job leading us through a pandemic. I mean, I don't know what the hell else to say. But it could not have been easy, but you did a heck of a job at the helm. So congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Okay.
David, this is Johnny. I just wanted to say thank you, man, for leading our board during a very difficult time and, with the online meetings and all of that. So thank you for a job well done, brother.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to meetings in person again. So.
David, this is Diana. I want to say thank you for your tenure as well. And I look forward to your advice and everything you have to offer to continue with CSLB in the future. Thank you. And I look forward to Kevin coming back again as well, if that is to happen.
Thank you, Secretary-elect Diana Love. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And David, this is Susan Granzella, and I wanted to say thank you very much. I can't imagine what it was like starting out having online meetings. And I'm looking forward to seeing people in person and actually being able to recognize faces and work together. But David, you did a marvelous job this last year, and thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Susan. Thank you.
David, this is Mary. I'd like to echo the appreciation and also the leadership that you've demonstrated in keeping us all on track, being agile and resilient in the face of all this. So much appreciated.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Hey, David, Jim Ruane, just on top of what everyone else said, and the pandemic thrown into it all, you did a great job. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, that was awesome.
David, this is Michael Mark, echoing all the statements. I've actually never had an in-person board meeting. This whole experience has been new to me. I appreciate your leadership going through these next steps, and I will state congrats to all the new officers. You guys are going to do a very, very great job for the consumers and California residents. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So with that, I call for adjournment then. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
You too.